If you love watching cheaters and backstabbers get exactly what they deserve when they least expect it, then you absolutely need to subscribe to Revenge Janet right now. Hit that bell notification because we serve up the most satisfying revenge stories that will leave you completely speechless. Trust me, what happened at this wedding will blow your mind. My name is Janet, and I am about to tell you about the most epic wedding day revenge in history. This is the story of how I crashed my ex's wedding and destroyed his marriage before it even began, all while serving justice on a silver platter. 2 years ago, I was in what I thought was the perfect relationship with a man named Ryan. We had been together for 4 years, lived together for 2, and I genuinely believed we would get married. Ryan was charming, successful, and everything I wanted in a partner. My best friend since college, Melissa, adored him and often told me how lucky I was to have found such a great guy. What I did not know was that Ryan and Melissa had been having an affair behind my back for the last year of our relationship. Looking back, I should have noticed the signs. Melissa started canceling our girls' nights more often, claiming she was busy with work. Ryan began staying late at the office and going on more business trips than usual. They both seemed uncomfortable when all 3 of us were together, but I attributed it to stress from their respective jobs. Everything came crashing down on a Friday evening when I decided to surprise Ryan at his office with dinner from his favorite restaurant. When I arrived, his assistant told me he had left early for the weekend. Confused, I called him, but he did not answer. I tried calling Melissa to see if she wanted to grab drinks instead, but she also did not pick up. On a whim, I decided to drive by Melissa's apartment to see if she was home. What I found there shattered my world completely. Ryan's car was parked in her driveway, and through her living room window, I could see them together on her couch, clearly intimate and comfortable in a way that spoke of familiarity and routine. I sat in my car for what felt like hours, trying to process what I was seeing. This was not a moment of weakness or a recent development. Their body language, the way they moved together, everything about the scene told me this had been going on for a long time. Instead of confronting them immediately, I made a decision that would change everything. I drove home, packed a bag, and left town for the weekend without telling anyone where I was going. I needed time to think, to plan, and to decide how I was going to handle this betrayal. During that weekend, I came to several realizations. First, this affair had probably been going on for much longer than I initially thought. Second, they had both been lying to my face for months, maybe years. Third, they were clearly planning to continue their relationship and expected me to eventually find out and just accept it. When I returned home on Sunday, I found Ryan waiting for me with a speech prepared. He told me that he had fallen in love with someone else and that our relationship had run its course. He claimed it was nothing personal and that we had simply grown apart. He never mentioned that the someone else was my best friend, and he definitely did not tell me how long it had been going on. The next day, Melissa called me with tears in her voice. She confessed that she and Ryan had fallen in love, and that she was sorry for hurting me. She tried to make it sound like a recent development, claiming they had fought their feelings for months before finally giving in to them. Both of their stories were lies designed to minimize their betrayal and make themselves feel better about what they had done. They wanted me to believe this was a tragic love story where they were the victims of uncontrollable feelings, rather than the truth, that they were selfish people who had been deceiving me for over a year. I played along with their narrative. I told Ryan that while I was hurt, I wanted him to be happy. I told Melissa that our friendship was more important than any man, and that I would eventually forgive her. They both seemed relieved that I was handling their betrayal so maturely. What they did not know was that I was just buying time to plan my revenge. Over the next few months, Ryan and Melissa became more open about their relationship. They moved in together within 6 weeks of our breakup, which confirmed my suspicion that they had been planning this for a long time. They posted photos on social media, attended events together, and acted like their love story was something to celebrate rather than something built on lies and betrayal. Meanwhile, I was gathering information. I hired a private investigator to look into their relationship timeline. What I discovered was even worse than I had imagined. Their affair had been going on for over 18 months. The investigator found hotel receipts, restaurant charges, and even evidence that they had traveled together while telling me they were on separate business trips. I also discovered that Ryan had been planning to leave me for Melissa for months before he actually did it. He had consulted with a lawyer about our shared assets, looked into breaking our lease, and even started moving his things out of our apartment gradually so I would not notice. The most devastating discovery was that they had been mocking me behind my back. The investigator managed to retrieve deleted texts between them where they called me naive, boring, and pathetic. They joked about how easy it was to lie to me and how I never suspected anything. Ryan even told Melissa that breaking up with me would be easy, because I was too weak to cause any real problems for them. Reading those messages filled me with a rage I had never experienced before. They had not just betrayed me. They had humiliated me and treated me like I was worthless. But instead of confronting them, I channeled that rage into planning the perfect revenge. 8 months after our breakup, Ryan proposed to Melissa. They announced their engagement on social media with a long post about finding true love and overcoming obstacles to be together. The comments were full of congratulations from people who had no idea about the real story behind their relationship. When I found out about their engagement, I knew exactly what I had to do. Their wedding would be the perfect stage for my revenge. I spent the next 6 months preparing. I created fake social media accounts to monitor their wedding planning. I found out the date, location, and details about their guest list. I discovered that they were having a large ceremony at an upscale venue with over 200 guests, including many of our mutual friends who had no idea about the true circumstances of our breakup. More importantly, I used this time to gather additional evidence of their deception. I interviewed people who had witnessed their affair, collected more documentation of their lies, and even recorded conversations with mutual friends where Ryan and Melissa continued to spread false narratives about our relationship. I also discovered that Ryan was up for a major promotion at his company, and that several of his potential new colleagues would be attending the wedding. Melissa had started her own consulting business, and was trying to land several high-profile clients, some of whom would also be guests. They were using their wedding as a networking opportunity, which made it an even better target for my revenge. 2 weeks before the wedding, I put my plan into action. I created a beautiful wedding website that looked legitimate at first glance. The URL was similar to their real wedding website, with just a slight modification that most people would not notice. I then sent an email to their entire guest list from a fake account, claiming that the couple had updated their wedding website with important information about the ceremony. The website I created looked exactly like a normal wedding site until visitors clicked on certain sections. The Our Love Story page told the real truth about their relationship, complete with documentation. The photo gallery contained screenshots of their deleted text messages mocking me. The wedding party page revealed the timeline of their affair, and how it overlapped with my relationship with Ryan. Most guests probably never clicked on those sections, but some did. I know this because several mutual friends contacted me asking if the information was true. I confirmed that it was but asked them not to say anything to Ryan or Melissa. I wanted them to discover my revenge at the wedding itself. On the morning of their wedding, I executed the final phase of my plan. I had spent months researching the venue and had discovered that they used an open Wi-Fi network for events. I arrived early, dressed as a catering assistant, and set up a small device that would allow me to control their audiovisual equipment remotely. I also planted several small Bluetooth speakers around the venue, hidden in flower arrangements and behind decorations. These speakers were connected to my phone and would allow me to broadcast audio throughout the entire venue if needed. The ceremony itself went without incident. I watched from a distance as Ryan and Melissa exchanged vows, both of them glowing with happiness and completely unaware of what was coming. Many guests were taking photos and videos, which would later document everything that happened. During the cocktail hour, I positioned myself in a bathroom near the reception hall and waited for the perfect moment. That moment came when the DJ announced that the bride and groom wanted to share a special video with their guests about their love story. As the lights dimmed and the screen came down, I activated my device and hijacked their video system. Instead of their romantic montage, the screen displayed a message. A special message for Ryan and Melissa from someone who knows the truth. The video I had prepared began to play. It started with photos of Ryan and me during our relationship, followed by photos of Melissa and me as best friends. The narration, which was my voice, explained how these two people had betrayed someone who loved them both completely. The video then revealed the truth about their affair. It showed the timeline, the evidence, and the real story behind their relationship. It included their deleted text messages mocking me, proof of their lies about when their relationship began, and documentation of how they had planned Ryan's breakup with me months in advance. The reception hall was dead silent except for the sound of my voice exposing every detail of their deception. Guests were staring at the screen in shock, then turning to look at Ryan and Melissa, who were standing frozen at the head table. Ryan tried to shut off the video, but I had overridden their controls. Melissa was crying, but not the happy tears of a new bride. Several guests were already getting up and leaving, including Ryan's boss and potential new colleagues. The final section of the video was a direct message to Ryan and Melissa. You thought you could rewrite history and make yourselves the heroes of this love story. You thought I was too weak and naive to fight back. You were wrong. This is what happens when you build your happiness on someone else's pain. Congratulations on your wedding day. I hope it was everything you deserved. When the video ended, the room erupted in chaos. Guests were talking loudly, some were leaving, and others were taking photos of Ryan and Melissa's reactions. The couple was trying to explain, but the evidence had been overwhelming and undeniable. Ryan's best man tried to get the DJ to start the music and continue with the reception, but the damage was done. Within 30 minutes, over half the guests had left. Those who remained seemed to be staying out of morbid curiosity, rather than celebration. I watched from the parking lot as wedding guests streamed out of the venue, many of them on their phones, probably calling other people to tell them what had just happened. I saw Ryan's parents arguing with Melissa's parents, apparently blaming each other for the disaster. The best part was when Ryan and Melissa finally came outside. They were no longer the glowing newlyweds from the ceremony. Ryan looked furious and defeated, while Melissa was sobbing uncontrollably. They were arguing with each other, each blaming the other for the situation they found themselves in. I drove away feeling more satisfied than I had in over a year. My revenge was complete, but the consequences for Ryan and Melissa were just beginning. Within days, the story of their wedding disaster had spread throughout their social and professional circles. Several guests had recorded parts of the video on their phones and shared it with others. Ryan did not get the promotion he had been expecting, and Melissa lost two potential clients who decided they did not want to work with someone involved in such a public scandal. Their marriage, which had started with such promise, began to crumble almost immediately. The public humiliation, combined with the stress of dealing with the fallout from their exposed lies, put enormous strain on their relationship. 6 months later, I heard through mutual friends that they were getting divorced. Apparently, the pressure of having their deception exposed publicly, along with the damage to their careers and reputations, had destroyed any love they thought they had for each other. Ryan reached out to me several times, alternating between apologizing and threatening legal action. But I had been careful to only reveal truthful information, and I had not technically trespassed or damaged any property. My revenge had been perfectly legal, even if it was devastating. Looking back, some people have called my revenge extreme or cruel. But I disagree. Ryan and Melissa spent over a year lying to me, cheating, and planning my emotional destruction. They used my love and trust against me, and they mocked me for being the kind of person who believed in loyalty and honesty. They thought they could rewrite history, paint themselves as star-crossed lovers, and live happily ever after while I quietly disappeared from their story. They counted on me being too polite, too hurt, or too weak to fight back. They were wrong. My revenge was not about destroying their happiness out of spite. It was about making sure the truth was known. It was about ensuring that people knew who Ryan and Melissa really were. Not the romantic couple they pretended to be, but two selfish individuals who built their relationship on lies and betrayal. The most satisfying part was not the public humiliation, although that was deeply gratifying. The most satisfying part was watching them realize that their actions had consequences they never saw coming. They had been so arrogant, so confident that they had gotten away with their deception. They learned that day that you cannot build lasting happiness on someone else's pain. They learned that lies have a way of catching up with you when you least expect it. And they learned that sometimes the person you underestimate the most is the one who ends up having the last word. Now, whenever people ask me if I regret what I did, I tell them absolutely not. Ryan and Melissa made their choices, and I simply made sure those choices had appropriate consequences. They wanted a fairy tale wedding, and they got one, just not the kind they were expecting. Sometimes karma needs a little help finding its way to the people who deserve it. Sometimes justice requires more than just moving on and letting time heal all wounds. Sometimes you have to take matters into your own hands and make sure the truth is heard loud and clear. That wedding video is still out there somewhere on the internet, a permanent reminder of what happens when you betray the people who love you most. Ryan and Melissa can never escape what they did, and they can never pretend their love story was anything other than what it really was. A selfish betrayal that hurt an innocent person. They got the wedding they deserved, and I got the revenge I had earned. In the end, justice was served on their most important day, and I finally got closure on the most painful chapter of my life. That is the power of patience, planning, and refusing to be a victim. That is what happens when you underestimate someone who has every reason to want justice. And that is why their wedding day will always be remembered for all the wrong reasons, exactly as it should be.